Hey, what's going on? Today, I wanted to show you guys how to use virtualization software in order to run another operating system so that you can either maybe run some old software that you have lying around or, just to, I don't know, maybe test out old Windows XP or or Linux or something like that. So first of all, you're going to need some form of virtualization software. Here, I've got VM Workstation 12. VM Workstation Player is free. Workstation Pro is not free. That's about I think a $200 premium. You can use VirtualBox as well. That is also free. That is another program that I do recommend, especially if you're new to virtualizing. Second, you're going to need an ISO file of the operating system and or a DVD or CD that you have it on, and an optical drive with which to run it so that you can mount the image. So for here, I already have an image. It's a Windows 7 image, and we're going to install that in using VM Workstation Player, and I'm gonna show you a couple of things that you can do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna hit create a new machine here. Initially, I had done an XP Professional disk earlier, but it didn't actually work, so that's nice. But we're gonna switch to this Windows 7 image here. So VM Workstation has detected it's Windows 7 64-bit. So we're going to hit next. We're not going to put a product key in there because there's no point. We will choose Pro. We'll change the user to test. We'll have no password because there's no point. And then we'll go ahead and hit next. This is just letting us know that we're going to have to manually activate the OS later on. That's fine. Hit yes to proceed. You can name it here. You can also change the location of where the virtual disk is going to sit. So next, I'm just gonna let it be in C because I don't really care where it goes. This is just for testing. So I'm gonna hit next, and it wants to use 60 gigs. Well, it's not gonna get 60, but it will get 40 because I'm gonna remove it afterwards. So now the thing it's asking down here is if you want to store it as a single file or multiple files. Now, if you store it as multiple files, you may have some latency. Opening up certain things. It's going to be a little slower overall. Typically, if you're running on solid state storage, you won't notice a huge difference between multiple and single files, but if you're using a mechanical drive, 5400 RPMs, which I highly do not recommend, or 7200 RPMs, I would select single file because it's going to reduce the latency. It's going to reduce the lag of the OS when you're trying to navigate it. And if you're just testing something out, you're just testing whatever, select multiple files, that's fine. But it certainly makes it a little bit slower on mechanical drive. So we're gonna just hit next here. So this is giving us an overview of things. Now, I'm not going to turn this right on after creation. I'm going to go to customize hardware so you can kind of see what it's using here. So it's going to automatically allocate it 2 gigs of RAM. That's fine. It's going to want to give it one processor. Okay. Now, for the love of God, pay attention to what you have in your computer. If you only have 4 cores, you can give it 2, but it's not going to run. It's not going to be fast. Okay. So unless you have, a server that has multiple cores that it's meant to kind of be chopped up and allocated to different machines, you're going to have to understand that, a regular workstation or a gaming computer or something like that isn't necessarily meant for virtualization, but you can still mess around with it. It's not going to hurt your computer at all. Just don't over allocate because you'll crash the VM. It won't work. You'll make your computer unstable, which if the host is unstable, then the guest or the virtual OS that you're running is also going to be unstable. So just take that into consideration. So we're just going to let it have the one core for the time being. You can also add in different pieces of hardware. Like we have a network adapter here. We can add in different ones, legacy stuff if we needed to. We can pass through USB if we want, sound cards, printers, things like that. It's automatically detecting the display, which is fine, and in Windows it's going to automatically accelerate graphics, especially once we add in VMware Tools, which, you know, it's a sort of like a compatibility layer between the host and the guest. So we'll go ahead and just close that up, and we're going to hit finish. Okay, now it's going to create the disk. This shouldn't take too long, being as it is sitting on solid state storage. So we will wait for that. And then we'll go ahead and start installing the operating system. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to begin the installation, then I'm going to kind of skip ahead so we don't have to sit through it, because it'll probably be about maybe 10-15 minutes. Almost done. Almost done. There we go. Excellent. So now you have your VM here, and we're going to hit play. Now starting it up, it's letting you know what's connected. We're going to hit OK. Windows loading files. This is just a reminder to get VMware Tools. So we're going to go ahead and just download them. Get all that stuff out of the way. And this is going to be a little different if you're using VirtualBox. Typically, you won't be able to install guest editions. That's what they call VMware Tools in VirtualBox, because, you know, Oracle has VirtualBox and VMware owns VMware Workstation. But like I said, it's a compatibility layer. It's going to make things run a little quicker. It's going to, you know, allow you to change resolutions easier. You know, have the you know, different pass-throughs, things like that. Maybe not PCI pass-through, but certainly USB. Okay, so this is going to get going here. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video, and we will pick it up when it comes back. Okay, so now the VM is just checking for video performance. The OS is starting up, so we'll go ahead and click in here. Now, if you want to release the mouse, you'll hit Control-Alt, and that will let you, you know, use your regular desktop again. So this shouldn't take too long to prepare the desktop. Here we are. Now we're inside Windows 7. Now, we're gonna need. Okay, we're gonna call this a home network because we're at home and whatnot. So let's go ahead and put that away. Now this should be installing VMware Tools. We may need to reboot the OS once it gets installed. But, you know, yeah, here it goes. Here it goes, VMware Tools. So this is going to install now. One thing to take into account is, you know, you're not going to use something like this to play video games or to do, like, you know, really, you know, heavy stuff. You know, but you can certainly test out, you know, setting up a server. If you've never used Windows Server before, you know, build a small Active Directory, things like that. You know, stuff like to learn on. I think that's the great thing about virtualization, is it does give you that ability to do so. So here we go. We're starting up Windows again after the reboot. So as you can see, moving the mouse around is a lot smoother than it was. A lot smoother. And if we go into screen res, we should be able to select multiple resolutions up to 4K here. We're obviously not gonna select 4K, but we'll do 1280 by well, no, yeah, we'll do 720p. Why not? So let's go ahead and hit this. We're gonna keep changes, and now I'm gonna zip right into the OS, or maybe we'll push it to the limits. All right. So that's gonna reorganize the screen here. Yep, so we can keep changes. It's not exactly right because this isn't full screen, but we're going to hit OK, and we're going to zip into the OS here. So here we are. We're in Windows 7. This is fully working. Everything in it works fine. You know, you can open up your start menu. Keep in mind, like, you know, once again, this is, you know, running on like your native computer, so it's not going to be as fast as, say, like running on you know, regular hardware. You know, we have shitty Internet Explorer here. This should be connected to the internet. It might not be, because I don't believe I set the network controller to be in bridge mode, but it looks like it is working just fine. So if we go, you know, just to show you, Google, if I could spell, .com, we're gonna go ahead and, you know, use the old internet here. We'll go get Chrome for desktop, download Chrome. Yes, we do want to do that. So we'll go ahead and download Google Chrome and then run that. Now, obviously, this is gonna kill the 2 gigs of RAM that we allocated for this VM, but this is more or less just to show you that it does work. Everything in here is going to work fine. You know, whatever you want to test out. Maybe you have, you know, old Microsoft Office 2003 for whatever reason, or 2007, and you want to run it, but you know, you don't want to run it on your Windows 10 machine, or maybe you have an 8.1 machine, or maybe you're running Linux, but you need Windows for something. This is a good way for you to do it. So here we go. Yeah, there's Google Chrome. Look at that. So fast. 2 gigs of RAM. So fast. So fast. But yeah, that more or less wraps it up. So let's go ahead and just shorten this down. Yep. So yeah, there we go. There's Windows 7 working in a VM. Once again, you know, test out some software, and you'll give this a shot. This is a really, really good way to get into Linux, especially if you really don't want to install it on your regular computer, because you know, maybe you play games. I obviously play a lot of games, you know, hence my wallpaper and all this other stuff. But yeah, I'm gonna have a couple more of these things coming through. I can also, if you're interested, I can also do the same thing in VirtualBox and show you how that works. I know the interface is a little bit different. I wouldn't say it's more complicated, but it is different. Like, I don't know if Windows Arrow can be configured. Yeah. See, so Windows Arrow works natively in VM Workstation, but I don't believe it works the same way in VirtualBox. But we can always explore that if you feel it necessary. But I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions or anything like that, you know, leave the questions in the comments, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. And yeah, have a great rest of your day.